Society conditions us for flight. The greater good of society, they don't want everybody to be millionaire. And why? Because the corporations need workers.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And as I continue to do these and as I get more guests and I find that there are more successful Black men on this planet who are just doing something in their local communities or doing something, whether it's national or they're just making a difference. They're willing to serve. They're willing to just do things sometimes that we just don't know about, because there's this, I don't know if it's I like to call it maybe a secret society or something of all these folks that we never hear about. We hear about all the folks that aren't doing well, all the folks that are, that are getting incarcerated, and the folks that are, hurting other people who are doing some great stuff. And there are those of us who are not. And so today I have Robert Foster on. Just excited about talking to him because he's an author. He's talking about some of the same things that I did in my book. And I think we're just going to have a great show together, just talking about some of those things, like those, what I can say is he has this ability to want to serve. And by the things that he wrote in his book and the things that he's sharing with folks, he knows that it can help out not only, himself and his family, but the greater people that live on this planet. Because I think we're all searching for joy and happiness and connectiveness and relationships. And there's so many things that we let get in the way, that stop us. And especially, when I started this, Robert, I know when I started the Journey to Freedom is because I went to a conference on trust, and it's called the Trusted Edge. And inside of that conference that I went on trust, there was a room of 400 or 500 people and 30 folks of color. And I came back going, why are we not getting this information? Why are the folks that, are researching it and understanding it and in the room, being able to catapult their lives into what you say, like greatness, but we're not getting that information. We're catapulting our lives into not trusting each other and not talking to each other, and and not trusting ourselves and not understanding ourselves, and just this thing that happens. And so Journey to Freedom, I did 105 podcasts last year of successful Black men. We're doing it again this year. We're gonna at least do 100, if not more. And so you're one of the ones here in 2025 doing it. And so for those of you listening, go ahead and hit subscribe, or hit the notification button. I'll say it maybe one more time, because I promise you, you're gonna find some interviews that work well for you. On the other hand, I want you to get out so your pen and paper, so you can take some notes today, because I think there's going to be some things that you're going to want to write down as Robert talks. And so, Robert, thanks again for being on the show. Talk to us about your story. Tell us where you came from. And, sometimes when we do these podcasts, tell us a little bit about your bio. Now we're going to talk about your story. Well, who you are.
Love that. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And, my story begins, so I was born in New York City, in Queens, New York. So the story begins really with when my mom was pregnant with me. Their apartment in Brooklyn burned down.
Oh, wow.
So they had to move into the projects in Queens. And my father didn't want to raise us there. So he actually left, and he came up to Rhode Island, and he started working at Electric Boat, which builds submarines for the Navy, and saved money, was looking around for a house. Like, he wanted a better neighborhood. He wanted a better school system. So then he finally found the house where I'm living now. And, there's like 1.5 acres of land. It's in the middle of nowhere, but great school system, great community. And then he went back to the city and got us. I mean, like my mom would come up a couple of times a month and help him too. But that's what got us up here. Because he was raised in the city. My mom was raised in the city in San Juan, Puerto Rico. So So I'm biracial,
Okay.
and they just instilled in us principles to not have that scarcity mindset. Not have that mindset that you're less than. Like, one thing my dad said to me that will always stick with me. He said, people will see the color of your skin. He said, it's up
Mhm.
to you to help them see past it. And I live that. I lived. I'm not gonna sit here and try and say I haven't walked into job interviews and knew within 2 minutes that they didn't want me. But it's like, I'm not mad at them. You're allowed to like who you want. You're allowed to dislike who you want. So I don't let that phase me. I look for opportunities. I don't look for the negatives. I don't look for drama. I don't look for any of that stuff. So that opportunity didn't work out. So I moved on to the next one. Then moved on to the next one until I landed the opportunity. And all of my teachings, even my show, Shut Up and Grind, that's what that's about. That stemmed from watching my dad. He was an engineer, great with his hands. He could literally build and do anything. And if he wanted something, he found a way to get it done. There was no excuses. He just found a way. He'd be like, all right, up, plan B, up, plan C, up, plan D. And he just reworked his game plan until he accomplished his task. And so we grew up watching that. That was our example. Like, my mother had to work two jobs. She worked like 16 hours a day. It's like we barely saw her, but she was putting in that work to provide for us, because I'm the youngest of seven. And where my competitive drive comes from, I was the, I don't want to say the kind of the out, not the outcast. It's not the right word. So anyway, I hit my growth spurt
Outlier?
late. What's that?
Is that outlier?
The outlier. There we go. Yeah. So like, my brothers were, tall, strong, and like we were all athletes. And for some reason, I was short and skinny. And so I'm I'm watching them excel in all their sports and getting their headlines in the newspaper and pictures in the paper, the winning trophies, ribbons, and medals. And here I am. I'm just scrawny. It's like I can't do any of that. But so finally, actually, so the next step in the story is, as a freshman, to give you the picture, I was 5'4", 88 pounds. Okay, 5'4", 88 pounds as a
You
freshman.
talk about skinny. You were skinny, skinny.
Yes, very, very skinny. And so I remember I joined the track team. And on the first day, I went to the track coach and I was like, I want to see the record book. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, why do you want the record book? And I
Hmm.
said, oh, because I'm going to break the high jump record. Right. And again, he looked at me and he's like, you don't have what it takes to be a high jumper. He said, you should consider hurdling. So the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I grew like 5 to 6 inches. So my genetics finally caught up to my drive.
Yeah.
And I held that school record for 21 years.
What'd you jump? You're
I jumped 6'6" in high school, and then I jumped 6'10" the next year.
nice. Okay. Yeah, we'll get to track, but I'll let you finish your story. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. And so from there, I had my eyes set on the '92 Olympics, and more so in the triple jump, because I was flirting around with the 50-foot range. And
Okay.
so I was like, all right, like if I can add a couple more feet, I can at least get an invite into the trials. So I was at the University of Rhode Island practicing, and I just overextended. I ended up jamming my knee. And so, yeah, so I ended up getting depressed, dropped out of school. Right. So we'll fast forward a bit. So I started managing restaurants, and
Wow.
I did that. Well, actually, I became a supervisor at the age of 15, and then I became a general manager at the age of 19. And
Wow.
so I did that for a while, and in that time, I became a father. So I have 5 kids, and just as they started getting older, I I was just missing a lot. I was missing the first tooth popping through. I was missing the first steps. I was missing school activities. Getting called in on my days off, having to reschedule my vacation, and I'm like, why am I living like this? It's like I don't have, like, no outside force is in charge of what I do. No outside force. So I took my garage at the time, because I did not get my father's handy gene. Right. So I had this big old garage at my house, right? I can make someone believe that they can run through a brick wall, but you ask me to reside a house, that's not happening.
That's not
Right?
gonna happen. Yeah.
You'll see duct tape on the seams and stuff. Like that's how
Love
I
it,
roll.
love it. Yeah.
Right. So so for this, so I turned my garage into a gym. And initially it was more so just for me. Because like
Mhm.
I was coming home stressed, and I was taking out the stress on my now ex and the kids. You know, just
Mhm.
coming home just grumpy because I wasn't being fulfilled. Like coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to do something in the either fitness or athletic field. I was like, but
Mhm.
here I am in the restaurant industry. Like, and I'm not knocking the industry itself, but it wasn't conducive to what I really truly wanted to do in life. So I just started getting myself back into athlete shape. And so I was like, all right, so I have all this stuff because I just started acquiring stuff. So I was like, you know what? Let me just throw an ad out there and just see if I can train a couple people. And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, it came to one person and then another person. And then next thing you know, I have 40 people training out of my garage. I
Oh
was like,
wow.
wow. So so where
Mhm.
everything changed for me was so I'm back in shape now. And I was like, you know what? Let me get back out on the track. So this was before I got into fitness and before I truly knew how the body worked. And so
Uh-huh.
so the way I was training, it wasn't smart. So anyway, so now we're at the track meet in the high jump. Well, I already won the long jump, so now I'm in the high jump, and I have my event already won because I was in the 30 to 34 age bracket. So I had that age bracket already won. But
Mhm.
there was a 45-year-old still jumping. And I wasn't gonna let this old man beat me. It wasn't happening. So I was like, you know what? Let me just beat him and then I'll stop jumping. So I run down, I plan to jump, like I missed it, but I felt a tug in my left knee. And I was like, like it just felt weird. Like it was a weird
Yeah.
kind of feeling. So I went back to again my now ex, and I was like, "Give me the tape." I was like, "I'm gonna tape it up, and I'm gonna take one last jump, and that one last jump would completely change my life." So I get up there, and it was a beautiful day. Sun was shining, light breeze, like everything was just like the conditions for jumping were just perfect. And
Mhm.
so I take off into my approach, throw the arms back, I plant the foot, and then I saw white. Right, I saw white. When I came to, I was on the ground, and I glanced down at my knee, and my kneecap was about that far up my quadricep.
Oh no. Oh God.
Yes. So now to give you another glimpse into my my personality, so I have my hands over my knee like this,
Mhm.
and the athletic trainer comes running over, and I said I already called for an ambulance, and she's like, I don't think you're gonna need an ambulance. Then I moved my hand, and just a look of horror on her face. She was like, she's like, oh my god, oh my god. You know what the next thing I said was,
Oh
how,
my
how
God.
do I get my how do I get my 2 gold medals?
Oh gosh. So was it you weren't in that much pain at that point? It's like I love it. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, like it must have like hit a nerve or something or touched a nerve because I felt nothing. It's like I felt the release, but it
Mhm.
wasn't painful. So like my
Gotcha.
patella tendon and a bunch of other stuff tore in there. So
Yeah, of course.
now this is the moment that shaped everything. So I'm in the ER. The ER doctor comes in. He takes off the brace that the EMTs put on, and without missing a beat, he looks right at me and says, "You will never run or jump again."
Wow.
And now I told you I
Walking
have
was
5
good
kids.
though. He's gonna let you walk. He just wasn't gonna let you run and jump.
Yep, he said no run. He said you will never run or jump again. And that hit me because my youngest, I have twin boys. They were 4 months at the time,
Okay.
and I had a 2-year-old, a 6 to 7 year old. I think she just turned 7 then, and
Okay.
then a 10-year-old. So like the kids were young, Like, and you're telling me, so I just started getting into that headspace. Like, I'm not gonna be able to play basketball with my boys. Like, I'm not gonna be able to go rock climbing, and I'm not gonna be able to do all these different things. But then it hit me. I was like, wait a second. It's like, bro, you're a competitor. This is just another challenge.
Oh, yeah.
So I said to the doctor, and I'll keep it clean because I didn't say it clean when I said it to him. But I was like, you don't know me like that. I was like, it's like you don't know how my body's gonna respond to this. It's like you don't know what I'm willing to do to make a full comeback. I was like, so you can't put that kind of diagnosis on me. I said, like couple years from now, if I'm not running or jumping, then all right, I'll accept it. But we haven't even had the surgery yet. So how can you say that I'll never run or jump again? And he's like, typically with these things, it's like a 10% chance. I said, then I'm gonna be in that 10%. That's how this is going. And so that's how my show is structured. In the book, like this isn't a book that you just pick up and read. There's 13 worksheets in here to teach you how to master your personal stories that can prepare you for anything in life, whether it's becoming a better leader, whether it's becoming a speaker, a blogger, a podcaster, get you telling your story on television shows. Like there's an endless amount of things that you can do with this book. Because in today's day and age, when I hear people say there's no opportunities, my answer is always, you're not looking for them. Opportunities are everywhere. Resources are everywhere. Like you said earlier, about like why aren't we getting this information? People aren't seeking the information. Like there's so much information on the internet with Chat GPT now, with Google, how-to videos on YouTube. Like there is no reason for anyone of any race, any gender, any religion why you cannot succeed in this life.
Yeah, that is so true. That there's so many opportunities, and one of the things that I really kind of look into all the time is, okay, when we say the opportunities are there, how do we access it? And what are the systems that have been in place that make it sometimes harder to access, or we just don't know because we're not, like you said, there's so much information out there. Is like, I don't even know what search words, like you said, Chat GPT. If you go through, you absolutely can do it. But I think some people just get stuck sometimes. What is so cool about I'm loving your story is because our stories are very similar. Um, when I mean, different pathways, different, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, so nowhere near, New York or Rhode Island or the East Coast or that time zone. But I think like I have two twin boys that we adopted and they were born in Brooklyn. So,
okay.
And so that's kind of cool. Track has been I've been a track coach for 38 years. So I've coached, and I'm a high jump coach. And so
coach, my website is thehighjumpcoach.com.
I love it. So I've coached some Olympians. I've coached some, several high school state champions. I think I'm at 11 7-foot high jumpers that I've coached.
Wow.
And so, but it's just cool. My son was a high jumper, and that was kind of, some of the story where he wouldn't try baseball his 8th grade year or 9th grade year, and hadn't been in all the little league. Wanted to do it. The coach took him out there in left field. So coach got suspended for 4 games for not playing him and letting him bat, for however they do. And so he said, "Dad, I'll try track when I get to high school." And then so he went and did track, and he was second in California. He jumped 6'9". His I think 6'9", and then he ended up being over 7 feet, in college and stuff. And so I just, the whole story and the parallels. I ruptured my Achilles when I was in my 30s. I went to the hospital. He said, "We got good news and bad news. The good news is we're going to take care of you. The bad news is we're doing surgery in the morning." So they did, a whole roll up with the Achilles, and kind of saying, "You're not going to be able to do stuff." And like when I had my back surgery, I was a hurdler. So when they did my back surgeries, the whole thing was when I got done, I had a Dodger physical therapist. The guy who did the back surgery on my second one was the doctor for the LA Kings, because I'm like, I want a doctor who's used to putting people together. I don't want the workman comp doctor who just wants me to go home and sit down and rest, because I can't. I'm an athlete. I'm like you are, right? We're going, how do I step into my greatness? How do I, do the things that I can do? And so now, a lot of my coaching is be, do, have. It's based on becoming the person you need to be in order to do the thing that God puts you on this earth to do, and being in purpose and being in all these things. And so I love the fact that you're just saying, hey, you can do this. You got to find a way to do it. And so I guess one of my questions is on identity, because I think the reason people don't do it is because their identity is not that one that is capable of doing it, because they haven't become that person yet. How was your identity shaped? Was it your dad or your mom who was Puerto Rican?
My mom. Your
mom. So my wife is her family. She's Puerto Rican, and her dad's family all, grew up in Puerto Rico. So it's like we're so much parallels in this world. Yes. But I wonder, because of the family dynamics, right? Of, who's pushing for what, and who's has the expectations, and the identity that we hold for ourselves. So yeah, talk to me about your identity and what drives you to be able to say, no, I'm going to go out and get whatever's available to me because my identity says I can.
Well, it's about core values. It's about who are you as a whole. And I know your show is geared towards the Black community, and a lot of what I see, because it's one of those things where, like, I grew up in a rural, predominantly white area, but that doesn't mean that I can't look and see with my own eyes what some of the issues are. Right? It's like I've been to cities, I've been to inner cities, and you look around, and my eyes work and my ears work, and a lot of the problem is the groupthink mentality. And if you try to break out of that, then it's like you're a sellout, you're an Uncle Tom, and you get labeled all this stuff. And so people keep themselves in that mindset, and then they blame white people. Right? So it's like with my dad. My dad chose to take us out of the city. He chose to. He figured it out. He left the family for like 7 months to come up here and work. It's like he made that decision. And sometimes when I speak in the inner city schools, I always say, if you don't come from a rich family's got to come from you. Right? Yeah. It's got to come from you. You have to be the one to break the cycle. If your grandmother was poor and your father was poor, and if you have the poverty mindset, then it's going to continue. Right? It's just going to continue. So if nobody breaks the cycle, it's going to just keep going. But we can't keep blaming slavery. We can't keep blaming the Tulsa massacres in 21. We can't keep blaming Jim Crow. Like, we can't do that. You have to seize control of what it is that you want. Like, if you want to be a doctor, get yourself in a position that you can get into college. And it doesn't matter if colleges reject you. Keep going till you get a yes. That's how it is. Keep going till you get a yes. Because because now I'm trying to get booked on TV shows as well. And I'm pitching every place out there. Like, literally every place out there. Because eventually I'm going to land one. And then once you land that one, you can leverage it. And then you just keep going from there. So going back to identity, like, if you strip away all the things that I do, strip away being the parent, being the athlete, being the podcaster and the speaker and the author, you strip away all of that, because a lot of people tie their identity to their profession. Right? They do. At the core, I'm a competitor. That's how I define myself. I am a competitor. So everything that I do, battling back from the knee injury, competitor's mindset. Last year, well, almost 2 years ago now, I literally lost everything and had to drop my keys on the desk, and I walked away from my fitness business because I put myself in a position to get taken advantage of. So am I mad at the person that took advantage of me? No, I'm mad at me, because I put myself in that position to let it happen. The writing was on the wall, but I'm a forever optimist. So I'm like, this will work out. And I ended up paying the ultimate price. But I pulled myself right back up. And why? Because I have that competitor's lens. Like, what I went through would have broke the person with the average mindset. But I was like, no, I got this. It's like it just takes steps every single day to rebuild myself. Like I paused the podcast for a bit because how can I be all motivational and stuff when I just literally had my whole world upended, right? So I just took steps. I went up to my local high school because this was right as outdoor track started. And I was like, you guys need any coaches? And so I started volunteer coaching. And then that relit my fire for fitness again. And now, mind you, I said I lost everything. So I had no house, had no car. And so I was riding my bike everywhere to make things happen. Like I could have just sat on my bed and just cried that I had no car and there's nothing I can do. Woe is me. That doesn't get you anywhere. And so I rode my bike. If I had to go to the supermarket, as I said earlier, we live in the middle of nowhere. So the closest supermarket is almost 8 miles away. And so I had to ride my bike 8 miles, get what I needed for food, rode my bike 8 miles back. And then so I started applying to jobs everywhere. And again, one of the places I applied, again, I could tell when I walked in that he didn't know that I was a brown guy, because my name is Robert Foster, right? It's not like my name is Malik, right? And so I walk in and I could just tell he just wasn't feeling it. It was like a 3-minute interview. But like I said, what do you do? On to the next. On to the next. I'm not gonna cry about this guy. Like on to the next. Like if he's that kind of guy, I don't want to work here anyway. Right. So I finally got a job bussing tables. Right. At the time I was 48 years old and I took a job bussing tables because when your back is against the wall, you got to do what you got to do. But from there, I only had to do that for 1 month. And then I quickly got promoted and 2 raises because I walked in and said, I'm going to dance circles around everyone. And I'm going to make myself undeniable to where they're going to be like, we need him somewhere else. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. So, when I start, I love that grit and that, belief that you have to do that. When we think about that competitiveness, is that something that's innate or is that something you can learn? Can you learn to be competitive or is that just something you're born with?
So every human being is born with a fight or flight response. Society conditions us for flight, right? So the greater good of society, they don't want everybody to be millionaires. And why? Because the corporations need workers, right? They need workers. So what I do with my trainings and when I'm working closely with people is I teach them to tap into that fight, right? It's like I always say, it's easy. Anybody can run away. Anybody can quit. But if you can discipline yourself, because that's what it comes down to. It comes down to discipline. But we're a society that's driven by motivation and feelings. Like, I don't feel like doing it today. I'm not motivated to do it today. Those are the people that stay stuck. But the people who can discipline themselves, and you can be taught discipline if you get yourself in an environment with like-minded people, like if you surround yourself with people who tell you you can't do it or there's no opportunities or you're going to have to work 20 times harder, you're going to adopt that mentality. But if you're around people who are driven, who are disciplined, and they can see a vision and they have the work ethic to go get it, you're going to adapt that mentality over time. So yes, you can definitely learn it.
Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. So my second book is called The Decision Formula. And it's 5 easy steps to making decisions that will change your life. Yeah. And in the book, I talk about making decisions. Most of the decisions you make are reversible. There's some decisions that are irreversible, like they're going to amputate your leg. It's not going to grow back. It doesn't mean you can't still do stuff. It's just not going to grow back. So that's a decision that you can't change. But most of everything else you can. The next part of the book talks about disciplines. It talks about creating disciplines and learning disciplines that are going to be congruent with whatever the decision you're making. Like if you want to be a world-class swimmer and you only want to go to the pool twice a week, you're not going to be a world-class swimmer. It's just not, you don't have the discipline. And so when you talk about disciplines, and I think about that is, how do you develop a discipline? Because it's like a muscle, right? You don't just show up with it, but it's something that is, part of it is caught, I guess. But are there things that you get to talk about or that you help people out that will develop those habits that turn into a discipline because I think we just live in one of those societies that wants everything now. And we show up and we say, I'm going to start my business now and it's going to be successful by next month. And if it isn't, then I quit.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, because I say that all the time. Like people work up to the pain. And just like in fitness, most people come to a gym like ours because you can go to Planet Fitness for $10 a month. But most people won't push beyond the pain. So that's why they have to come to a place like us. Because I always say, you won't throw yourself off the cliff. So you need me to throw you off the cliff and make them get, nope, 2 more reps. Like, no, I'm cooked. No, you're not. Keep going. 2 more reps. Because a lot of people need that leadership. Like they need that guidance. That's a better word, right? They need that guidance. Just like coaching track, right? What do? We guide those athletes. We guide them. And as you know, mental performance is a huge part of your physical performance. And so what's happening in society now, and it's driving me nuts, is that with this whole like participation trophy thing, and that you tried your best, and just be happy with what you got. It's like that mentality is going to tank society in the next 50 years. Absolutely tank it. So it takes people like us to use our platforms to tell people, okay, you have this going on. This is how you can beat it. You have this going on. This is how you can beat it. Like I told my daughter before she went to college, I said, listen, you are a mixed race woman. I said, some parts of society are going to tell you that you're going to struggle. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. I went right down the list. You ignore all that. Focus on your goal and make it happen. It's like, that's what you got to do. Make it happen.
Make it happen. When we think about like, you set up to the pain, but I don't know if transformation happens without going through compression or without going through pain and not going through things. How do you help people understand that you're going to have to go through some things? Like you said, we're watering it down with all these participation stuff, and we're all, and when I'm dealing with like elite athletes, it's all mental. There's only so much I can teach you, right? And we can work on it. I can find little things. But at some point, it's all about your thinking process.
Yes.
How do you help people go, hey, we're now with the pain, we got to push through it?
Yeah, so I use obstacle races a lot. So again, going back to being told I would never run or jump again, I did 191 obstacle races. I did 22 track meets where I won 22 medals, including 16 gold. Right. And so
this is after the knee surgery.
This is after being told I would never run or jump again. And so I use a lot of different principles, but one of the main ones is just like with my track athletes. I tell them, I'm like, if you want to be a champion, you have to have a good relationship with pain. I mean, like running the 400 meters, like you ever see people cross the finish line and they're just chilling? Right? It's like they're in hell. They're laying down, they're hyperventilating, they're bent over, right? To win that race, it's painful. And to become an elite high jumper, like you got to get in the squats, the lunges, the Bulgarian split squats. You got to work on plyometrics. It's like you got to put yourself through it if you want to get to perform it at your highest level. Like because everybody's highest level is different, but whatever your highest level is, you got to do what you got to do. And how I use the obstacle races, like I just brought 30 of the members to a stadium race, a stadium Spartan race in Boston, Mass at Fenway Park. And for a bunch of them, it was their very first race. And they're like, I won't be able to do this. I won't be able to do that. I'm like, how do you know? We're not even there yet. Like, we're not even at the race and you're already talking yourself out of it. And right, it was like a lot of them did a bunch of things that they didn't think they would be able to do. So it's like you got to face the fear. It's like the worst thing that happens is you say monkey bars. Worst thing that happens is you fall off. But we don't take it as a failure as a whole. So like if you've never done monkey bars and you make it 2 rungs, that's a score. You just did something that you've never done before. Maybe you didn't get all the way across and ring the bell, but then now you do another one. You train a little harder and you do another one. Maybe you work on grip strength. You work on pull-ups. And then the next race, you might get halfway across, before you fall down. So it might be a process. It might take 6, 7, 8 races before you get across. So that's teaching them resilience. Keep going, keep going, keep going. It's like, okay, you fell off once. That doesn't mean you never try again. And like that happens in business, that happens in life. To what you said earlier, people get going, you hit a little bit of adversity. Oh, this isn't for me. This isn't working. Like when people come into the gym and say, I've tried like 8 different diets. I'm like, so all I heard is that you quit 8 diets.
Yeah.
right? Right. If you picked one and you stuck with it, you would
They
have
all work.
got the result. And
Yeah.
again, to your point, because people want everything yesterday, because how society positions everything. Lose 20 pounds in 20 days. Like that stuff is not real. And even if you do, you're not going to maintain it. So it's like using those obstacle races, especially the longer, because the longer ones are hard. You're talking, 10 miles. There's like 16 milers, there's 30 milers. So when you get out there and you're tired and your feet hurt and your hips hurt and you might be getting a little cramp in your calf and your back might be hurting from carrying the sandbags and the buckets, but you keep moving forward. And just the community in those races, if people see another racer struggling, even if you're not on the same team, people always stop and give words of encouragement, offer supplies. Like it's such a great, great community. And so I use those as another tool to just like once we're done, we cross the finish line. It's like you just did that.
You did it. Yeah.
Yep.
There's something, I'm calling it, I got an analogy the other day that really gave me a perspective. I'm calling it the athlete advantage. Because even when I think about college athletes or those of us who competed in college, in particular, it was an analogy on football. And it was the people will start, or the athlete will start almost year round. They'll start in April or May. They'll start their training. They'll go through 2 days in the summer. They'll go through 7-on-7 workouts. They'll go through spring, fall, all to see if they can play 1 hour 11 times. And they'll do a whole year of training for 1 hour 11 times, because that's how many
So
games
true.
you get, right?
Yeah.
And so, but we in society want to say, okay, whatever it is we're doing, I want to do this, but are you going to spend a whole year working as hard as you can, getting up at 5 a.m, doing everything you do for 1 hour that you might get on the field, right?
Yeah.
11 times during a whole year. And you think about like even school or graduate degrees and something, you go through school for however many months, do your papers, do all that stuff so that you can get maybe a job that would maybe last, a couple. But we won't do that with our regular stuff that we do every day. We won't do that with our bodies that we want to, we want to lose weight. Okay, so if you want to lose weight and look like this, are you willing to work every day for the next year to be able to do that and then to be able to achieve that? And I just thought that was just such a great analogy. Like you're saying, you got to go out and then you can say, I did that. But if you try to say I did that after 1 month, you haven't done nothing. You haven't even started yet. You haven't even began the race, I guess, if you're only doing it for that amount of time. But then I see, the strength mentally to be able to do that. It takes that year to do it, because you couldn't perform that after 1 month anyways, because you haven't developed the mental acuity to be able to move forward on that kind of stuff. And like I said, I love what you're saying. You're saying, no, the opportunity is there, so you can't blame the whole world. There's enough information out there if you don't know how to access. And that's where I want to get into associations. And it doesn't necessarily just have to, I think everybody needs a coach. And if you are a coach and you are not being coached, you don't deserve to be a coach. So yourself. Right. But it's just, how do we align ourselves with people who can take us there? Because I think there's so many, especially in our culture, we align ourselves with the folks that are telling us we can't. We align ourselves with the folks at the barbershop or where we're at that just want to concentrate on athletes, or want to concentrate on actors, or want to concentrate on, hey, what are Patrick Mahomes, stats today? They don't even know their own kids' stats.
Facts.
Right?
They they focus. A lot of it is the music too. Like
Well, music, yeah.
I was actually saying in the gym earlier. I was like, 90s music. I still rock out to 90s music, but now that I'm older, I was like, we let a good beat let us ignore the god awful lyrics.
Oh my God. You're
I'm
right.
like, if you
You're right.
listen to these lyrics, it's like that's completely poisoning the community. Because, like, if you look at pictures, even during segregation, you look at pictures from like the 1930s, like it wasn't like the way it is now, and like, and blacks were like actually fully oppressed in that time. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's like segregation was legal, racism was legal back then, but the black community was thriving still. The black
They were.
family was strong. The black financial security was strong. But then once the black family was broken up, and then you throw in this degenerate music, and then somehow crack shows up in the city. How did that get there? Now you got a drug problem. Now you got the illegal guns, and all of that stuff is glorified in the music. Disrespecting women is glorified in the music, and it's become a lifestyle. Like, the black community, that's the only community that props up criminals. No
Yeah.
other race props up their criminals. Not one. What were you about to say?
I was gonna say, I mean, we think of the rite of passage in the music is, I got to be in prison. I got to serve time in prison in order to be a
Yeah.
good rapper, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
Tupacs of the world and the Biggies and all those guys that back in the '90s when we were going through that. Hey, you weren't the deal, with the Death Row Records and Suge Knight and all those guys. You weren't the deal unless you had spent some time in
Yep.
jail. Wow,
Yeah. It's like,
you're
and
so right.
that's a huge problem. It's like if one guy I was actually having a political debate with someone, and he was talking about, he's like, don't you think it's harder for a poor black kid to make it than a white kid to make it? And I said, how about this scenario? Let's say the black kid has two parents. They live in a good neighborhood with a good school where education is pushed, and setting goals and casting a vision is pushed, versus a white kid from a single parent household who's told every day he's going to be worthless and not amount to anything. Which one of those two do you think is going to have a better opportunity? So it's like, it really doesn't. I mean, does racism exist? Yeah, it does, but it's not to the point to where it was. It's like, people now, it's almost manufactured. Like, everything is racist now. Every little thing. Like, oh, that white person looked at me. They looked at me because of the color of my skin. Like, how do you know? How do
Yeah,
you know? Like, I remember seeing two women walking down the street holding hands, right? And it's human nature to just look. Like, we just look around us. So I just glanced over and I smirked. And my smirk was, they look cute together. But
Mhm.
one of the women just flashed me the nastiest look, like I was judging them. You
Wow.
know what I mean? And that happens a lot within the black community. They think, oh, they're watching me because I'm black. Like, they're watching you because of their profits. Like, they
Yeah.
watch everybody. Like, like, loss prevention is a thing, right? It's a thing. That's why, like, these big stores have cameras. It's a thing, So, like, yeah, they're keeping an eye on their product, no matter who walks in. Like, I saw this guy. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was at a Walmart. This guy's coming out with, like, yeah, he was trying to come out with a big old TV. And they always ask to see the receipt when you got something bulky like that.
Yeah.
And this guy was pitching a fit with the police officer. He has his phone, he's recording, and as I'm walking by, I'm thinking, like, just show him the receipt and this is over. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, what, like, why are you making this a bigger deal? And then that's how these kids mess around and get shot. Because, like, again, in the music, and
Mhm.
they're saying resist the police and fight the police and stand. How you fight the police is you quiet, you do what they tell you, you get the summons. On the back of the summons, there's a court date. If you have a dispute, you go to court and you make your dispute. It's like, you don't fight with someone who's got the ability to take your life. It's like, I don't understand how that gets pushed in the mainstream. They're like, no, you got to push back. I'm like, what? It was like I got pulled over twice. I'm not proud of this. This was in my 20s, and I was hammered both times. Right? Right? Cops pulled me over. I complied. Like if they gave me a breathalyzer, it probably would have exploded. But they gave me right. But they gave me the sobriety test, and thank God I've always been fit. And so, like, I think it was really just the strength of my quad, just what kept me from falling over. So I ended up passing the field sobriety test. The cop followed me home. A white cop followed me home. And then the second time I was like 3 houses away from where I lived. And I was like, see that brown one right there? Yeah, that's me right there. And so because I was so close, he let me go. I mean, because that time I got pulled over. It was dark. I just did a rolling stop at a stop sign. It was night. It was night. There was nobody around. But on the other side of the bush was a cop. And so he pulled me over for that. And he's like, "You've been drinking?" I was like, "Honestly, yes." I was like, hands on the steering wheel, inner light on, and just completely complied. And like he just looked at my ID. He didn't even run it or anything. And he's like, "Just go." He's like, "But just let this be a warning." He's like, "That I could have made your life miserable right now."
Yeah.
And because he could have took me to jail, could have impounded my car, like he could have complicated things big time. And he didn't, because I didn't give him a problem. Like, that's what people have to understand. It's like, I'm sure cops aren't out looking to just start stuff the way the media makes it seem. Like, that's not the case. Like, if it's like anything else in life, give respect, get respect. You give an attitude, you're going to receive an attitude back.
Absolutely. Well, Myron Golden talks, I don't know if you've watched any of Myron Golden stuff, but he talks about contributing factors versus determining factors. And there's all these factors that are part of our society that we contribute to our downfall or our ability not to get anything. But truly, it's all about our determining factors, what we determine to do. He can say, well, yeah, it hasn't been a great country for Black folks in the last 200 or 300 years, right? It's true, it hasn't been, but that's a contributing factor. That's something that you have no control over, that contributes to, but the determining factors in who you become are those actual factors that you can control, and you can change who you are.
Yes.
In your mind, what are the best ways? Like, I'm starting out, I don't believe I'm enough. I have poor self-esteem. My mom has been telling me all my life that I suck and I'm terrible. And, those are all of those are contributing factors, right? Yep. What are some things that I can do right now to help move myself to where I would like to be?
So again, I mentioned within my book, there's 13 worksheets, and I'll just talk about a couple of them. Okay. Like one of them is you have to do, I call it a pain assessment. Like that's where you take a detailed look at your current situation. Like, for example, in fitness, you start with your height. Your height, your weight, your body fat percentage, how much water are you taking in? How's your nutrition? How many steps a day do you get? Like, you take that first step. If it's in a personal, like, are you happy more? Are you sad more? Are you happy in your relationship? Do you have a good relationship with your children, right? And you go right down and you do a complete self-assessment. And now anything in there that you answered no to, we have to expand on, so we can move on, getting you towards something that it is that you want to do. Like in the restaurant industry, as I said, there just came a point where I was no longer happy in that role. And so I started doing fitness on the side. Now, was it long days? Yes, it was, but it was a means to an end. It's like, I have to get this thing off the ground so I can leave this thing. It's like people just get up. They're very robotic. They just get up and do the same things every single day and then wonder why they can't catch a break, because you're doing the same thing every day. You have to steer yourself in the direction where you want to go. Because what happens when you stay stuck in that hamster wheel, you can't see the opportunities that are waving at you, right? So when you're focused in an area, like, what? I want to start a podcast. This is what I'm going to do. And then you just take out your camera and just start, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start. Like, I started originally just talking about fitness. I think my first 8 episodes was just me talking about fitness stuff. And then as I wrote out my seven steps, like a couple of the other worksheets come directly from the steps that I use to help people. It's, the pain assessment, eliminating excuses, assessing your inner circle, casting a vision, setting goals, because casting a vision and goal setting are not the same,
Right.
and perseverance and resilience, like grind until you get there. It's like, yeah, are there going to be pitfalls along the way? Because as you know, it's not linear. You're going to get thrown a whole lot of curveballs in your journey, and then, but if you're focused on that end goal, you can get through those pitfalls quickly and keep moving forward. And so again, back with this podcast, when I was like, all right, how am I going to get guests? It's like, why are people going to come and talk to me? And then I did one post in this Facebook group, I think it was called Driven, where the woman was like, you can promote yourself, promote your show. I did one post and I booked out for 4 months. It's like, even now it's January, I'm booking into June right now on two shows a week. I'm booking into June. So it's like, because I'm focused on getting guests, and so I'm finding guests everywhere.
Of course. Yeah.
And so I want to speak on platforms more. So my sister, I was using a site called Pod Booker, and I wasn't having a lot of luck getting booked with that one. I was finding guests very well on that one, but getting booked wasn't really happening. So my sister told me about Podmatch, and I'm into, I think, week 5, and I have 44 bookings.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, already I have 44 bookings. I was like, wow. It's like like I have some I haven't even responded to yet. So yeah, so it's about just keeping your eye on the prize. But the first step is knowing what the prize is, because a lot of people, their prize is undefined. Like, people will come in the gym and say, I want to get healthier. It's like, is that a goal? I mean, it's a goal, but it's undefined. It's like, okay, healthier in what way? Yeah, in what way? Like, if you're not drinking enough water, and then today you drink enough water, you're healthier. Right? So it's like,
exactly. I get you healthier in 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Walk down there and walk back. Just further you walk yesterday, so you're
yeah. So that's the thing. To answer your question, is you got to know what you want. Like, I know I want to land a spot on a national TV show, and I'm positioning myself with clips from these talks, and just position myself in the community, getting outreach, networking with people, like bringing them in on the show. I connect them. I connect them with resources. Hopefully they'll connect me with resources, and somewhere in there, I'm going to meet the right person where this thing's going to blow up. It's like, that's the game plan.
Absolutely. And the optimistic view of the world, and that they're, I think sometimes we get so stuck on lack that we can't have it. When I'm thinking about my, the book that I wrote on There's No Tiger, and we spend so much time, thinking about all the things that could happen, and we don't overthink on the things that are good. We overthink on all the bad things that could happen. We don't like, oh man, what if I go home and my wife loves me just so much, she's going to love me, and we're going to be able to do all these wonderful things. My kids are going to hug me, and they're going to, we never overthink about that. We think about, oh yeah, I'm going to go home. I spilled this ketchup on my wife's going to be all mad, and then my wife's going to scream at me, and then my kids are going to hear my wife scream at me. They're going to be traumatized, and then they're not going to be able to get a job later in life. I mean, people go that far deep down into, overthinking about these things that you have no control over, and we spend all this time on the anxiety about doing it, instead of saying, wait a minute, there's nothing I can't do. Good.
I'm glad you said overthinking, because I say all the time, stop thinking and just do. Just stop thinking about it. Just go. Just like in the obstacle races, they were like, I'll use the monkey bars again. Like, they'll put one hand up, and they're like, I'm like, just go. Like, just go. Worst that'll happen is you'll drop down. Just go. And people talk themselves out of things. Like, that's a huge part of procrastination, is because people are like, oh, well, I don't have this yet, I don't have that yet, I don't have this yet, I don't have that yet. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Just start. Because you can always improve. This book cover, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, it's not popping because
there it is. There it is. Yeah, so like, this here needs to be darker. Right. But I wanted to get the book into circulation. So I was like, let's just get it out there, because I can always upgrade.
Of
you know,
course. Yeah.
because it's not about that. Like I like you're not gonna learn from the cover. You're gonna learn from the content, right? Right. So the second you do this, the cover's irrelevant.
Uh,
Absolutely irrelevant. The second you open the book. So I was like, you know what? It's done. Let's just get it out there. Let's just get it started. And then for the next book, you know, we can make it better or
yeah.
whatever, or I can redo this one. But like it's the content of what people are gonna get out of there. So I was like, you know what? It's done. It's ready. Go live.
Yeah. And I've seen several books with the same title, different cover. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the same book, same words on the inside. So
Yep.
absolutely. As we're winding down, we get about 5 minutes left. What did we not talk about that you want to make sure that you let everybody know about? Because this has been a great show. It's been
Thank
you
you.
know I've been trying to pull some gems out. I got lots of notes that I wrote down because I love just having this conversation with you. So it's great.
So I'd say one thing I want people to understand is that pain is pain, right? We get so caught up on the what that we forget that the power in the story is in the how did you come back from it, right?
Hmm.
So for example, we'll take my niece story. Actually, no, we'll take my dad, right? So I watched my dad pass away, right? There were three generations of us around him when we had to end care. Like, so I watched him take his final breath. Like, I watched the color leave his face, right? My mom just had her last radiation treatment for breast cancer, you know? So it's like these are two completely different events, but like every day she has to wake up with that reality that she has cancer. Well, hopefully it's gone. She has a follow-up appointment on Friday, so hopefully, you know, we find out that it's gone and she's good. But she has to wake up every day and deal with that reality. Just like initially I had to wake up every day and realize that my dad's gone.
Yeah.
You know, like my dad is gone. Back to the knee. I had to wake up every day. Like I have a walker. It's like I have a walker. I have to teach myself to walk again. You know,
Hmm.
so people that have been in abusive relationships and they finally decide to get out of it. That's where the story begins. You know, it's not the fact of what you went through. How did you rebuild yourself each day in that process? So as people are come overcoming struggles and overcoming challenges, and then you always hear people say, oh well, that's different, well that's different, well that, no it's not. The steps to healing from any type of pain, any type of struggle. You could have been on a job for like 21 years and just suddenly you get laid off,
Hmm.
right? That's a struggle. Every day you wake up you have to deal with that reality that you don't have a job. And there's steps that you have to do to come back from that, you know. And losing someone with grief, like we with grief is one of the few things where you don't want to look to the future, because
Yeah.
like when my dad passed, it wasn't about not having him anymore. I was 45 when he died, so I turned to gratitude. Like I have 45 years of memories of when he made me laugh, when he made me do work I didn't want to do, when he pissed me off, when he inspired me, when he gave me that tough love that I needed, when he was coaching me to be better in my sports. Like he left all of that stuff behind, all of those memories, the pictures, the videos. Like there's so much stuff there. And so but we get stuck on the future. You know, like I was working with a woman, she found her brother dead, and I guess
Ooh.
she was in therapy. Yeah, she was in therapy for like a year. She reached out to me, and to be fair, I avoided her at first. You
Of
know,
course.
so but like I didn't know why she was reaching out. So I was like, all right, she's being persistent. So I was like, so let me reach back. And so then she told me what happened. So she's here in Rhode Island. So I went up to her gym, and you know, we sat for about maybe an hour and a half, and I just helped her reframe that. I was like, you're stuck on what you
Yes.
saw. I said, granted, you will never ever unsee that. Just like I won't ever unsee my dad taking his last breath. I said, but that's not where the story ends. I said, when you left your brother's apartment, that's where the story begins. I said, so let's take it from that first hour. What did you do that first hour? What were your thoughts before you went to bed that night?
Yeah.
The next morning, how did you deal with the reality of what had? And we just did an entire timeline. And then I told her, I said, yeah, he was, I don't remember how old he was, but so we'll say 30. I said, so you have 30 years of memories of him. I was like, make this gym a memorial of the happy times. I said, get a picture of him smiling and maybe put one of his favorite quotes next to that picture. So when you're in that sad place, you have the happy reminders of what he left behind.
What he left. Yeah, that's great.
So when you're navigating pain, accept what happened, good, bad, or ugly. It has to be accepted. Like, this thing happened. But if you're still here, it didn't break you. So
Yep.
tell the story, right? So tell the story of how you got through it. That's the one thing that I want to make sure that I get in before we go.
Oh, thank you. It has been a pleasure talking to you. Like I said, I took lots of notes, and I can't wait to follow you. I'm going to grab your book, and you're doing a great service for folks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Your true grit, your unrelentless, pursuit of whatever it is you're going is an inspiration. And so thank you for being there. If you're watching this and this has inspired you, you see how to get a hold of Robert. Now we'll make sure we put it in the comments and the things that are there, because we can't do this by ourselves. And when you fail, most likely is you're trying to do it by yourself. I mean, there's some things that you're going to do that maybe aren't what your purpose is, and that you'll have to keep moving and trying. But the thing is that you get back up. When you get knocked down, you get back up. When you get knocked down, you get back up again. And so please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, notification button, whatever it is that you need to do, the YouTube type stuff, to make sure, because we're just going to continue to put episode after episode of people who are making it happen in a big way. And so you guys have a wonderful, just incredible day. I believe that you are God's greatest gift, and he loves you if you allow him to. And we'll look forward to talking to you on the next one. Have a great day.